Only believe, only believe. All things are possible if you only believe. Oh, only believe. Oh, only believe. All things are possible if you only believe. Praise the Lord on tonight. God bless you. God bless you to our guests on tonight. It is True Vines Tuesday night Bible study. And once a month, we dedicate time for personal development or making ourselves aware of things that would make us better citizens and better humans. Amen. And so on tonight, we want to deal with and we want to tackle the whole thing that has everyone up in an uproar called COVID-19. Some people think that it was sent by the devil. Some people say it was sent by the Lord. Some people say it won't affect them because they're a positive thinker. But whatever it may be or may not be, let's look at it from the information that God has allowed us to gather. And on tonight, I am privileged to have Sister Gwen, and you all know her. She has to lead our lesson on tonight or our discussion as it relates to COVID-19 and what's true and what's not, and any other information that might be helpful for us as we go on in the following days. Sister Gwen, it's in your hands.
Praise God. I thank God for this opportunity. I thank you, Pastor Ross, for reaching out to me and asking me, to do this. I pray that what I say, is acceptable, not only in the sight of the people, but most of all in sight of the Lord. I thank God because, I think that this is a timely forum. I think that, we're 2 years in, we're exhausted. I'm exhausted, as a clinician. I'm sure other people are exhausted as well. So, if I were to take a quick poll, I'm sure that I can't see your hands. So if you say, oh, yes, I won't know who you are. But I'm sure that number one, either somebody on this line has had COVID and or they knew somebody that had COVID. And thirdly, they knew someone who died from COVID. So to dispel the myth about whether or not it's true or it exists, number one, it does, because we've seen the devastation of this virus last year in 2020 when we lost so many people. A virus that did not discriminate according to race. It didn't discriminate according to economic background. It didn't discriminate against title, position in the church, out the church, believers, unbelievers. It did not. It was worldwide. It is what we call pandemic. Okay. It was not an epidemic. It was a pandemic, meaning that it spread across the globe. And there probably are some areas that escaped it because people weren't traveling there. So, if you traveled and you went anywhere in the Europe or Asia or Africa or Canada or North America, South America, there's a possibility that you might have actually been exposed or came in contact with someone who potentially could have transmitted this virus. What we know, I'm not giving a doctoral dissertation tonight. I'm not doing a college lecture. This is not didactic. Tonight, I'm just going to come to you because, unfortunately, I have to wear several hats when it comes to this disease. I have to wear the hat of clinician. I present the science. I also have to come as minister, a person of faith that believes in God, who walks with God, who believes that God can heal anything, and there's nothing too hard for him. So it's going to be a very bilateral type of conversation tonight. But I wanted to give everybody an opportunity. Let's talk about it, okay? Because there's some people out there who are vaccinated, and there's some that are unvaccinated. And there are people who are saying, I don't care about it, and I'm still not going to get vaccinated, even though they've been infected, even though family members have been infected, even though they've lost people from the virus, they are still holding the stance that I'm not going to get vaccinated. There's people across various spectrums who are saying, guess what? Yeah, but I'm still not going to get vaccinated. I'll lose my job. People have walked away from their professions over a vaccine. They have protested over a vaccine. They've gotten fired over this vaccine. And the question that I want to pose is, if you knew that there was something to potentially save your life. Okay, let me back up before I say that. Science is not exact. And what I mean by that is that we're ever learning and coming into the knowledge of what we know and what we don't know. We are constantly investigating and researching to gain a greater knowledge. When children were being born with deformities, we did not know, and they were losing activities of their limbs. We did not know there was a virus that would cause something called polio. Many children were crippled as a result of this horrible disease. But when somebody by the name of Salk developed a vaccine that could potentially kill this and cause children not to have these lifelong, painful, uncomfortable disabilities, people were running to put those drops in the mouths of babies when they were born. And they're still doing it to this day. The whole concept of vaccine development is ongoing. As we gain more and more knowledge, we're able to increase that. The thing is that the immune system, thank God for the complexity of the human body, that we still have to continue to research and find, because it's beyond our knowledge. God is the mastermind. He knew, he made something called the immune system. Something that he knew that would help us if we came in contact with something. Do you not think that the people back in biblical days, if they knew that they could get a vaccine to prevent leprosy, every leper in the leper colony would be saying, I don't know, while their fingers and toes and nose and body parts were falling off? They would say, well, I don't know if this is a conspiracy. Maybe, would they? Would they embrace the opportunity to become part of society and be acclimated back into society and not have to yell, unclean, unclean, unclean? I believe that they would be running to the leopard vaccine site. People would get tested to make sure they don't have that infection in their body, and they would be putting their arms out to say, stick me. So I am trying to figure out in my mind, what is so different about this vaccine that people are still declaring that it's a conspiracy and that it's out to get who? Get who? What population of people is this virus targeting? Because whoever is trying to target, they made a mishigash of it, because guess what? It's targeting everybody. It is not discriminating. At first, we thought it was the older people. And then we started realizing that it wasn't just the older, the 65 years and up. It was hitting the middle age. And now we're in the state where now it's our children. So this is a disease that doesn't care. It's a virus. And to sort of give you a little bit background on viruses, viruses are like homeless people. They want to find somewhere to live. They need a host. They want somebody's house. They need a port of entry. They want to get in and start to use what you have in your body so that it can make more of itself. Viruses on itself cannot replicate unless it has a host. It needs the perfect environment. And that's why. So why we have to wear masks is, why do we still have to cover our faces? Why? Because the port of entry is your nasal passages. It's a completely respiratory disease. It's what we breathe in. It's not contact, even though they still think that because it is similar to cold viruses, that if you sneeze and cough and you put droplets, then you run the risk of somebody inhaling the droplets while you're coughing or you're standing too close. And that's why we have to social distance, because they believe that 6 feet is a random number, seems to be good enough that if you do cough, that's a pretty far distance for those droplets. Most likely because the law of physics, it would fall to the ground before it reached the other individual. That's why we social distance. So those of us who say, I don't need the social distance, you need to social distance. You need to wear a mask. Now, how many people know about the Black Death? Anybody know about the Black Death? What was the Black Death? Anybody? What was the Black Death?
That was the Black Plague, right?
Correct. And where did it originate? Anybody answer? No, nobody? Okay, so let me give you a little bit background on the Black Plague. The Black Plague, or the Black Death as it was called, originated in Europe, and it wiped out it wiped out more people in a span of years than COVID has done in 1 year. So we're not talking about Black Death plague pandemic. And you know why? Because of the progress of science. Do you know that Black Plague, or the Black Death, occurred when a shipload of rats that was infected with this particular virus of bacteria entered into Europe? And because the sanitary conditions were not optimum back then, we're talking about, early, 1900, they didn't know you throw your garbage out. They didn't know that you wash your hands. They didn't know you cover your mouth when you cough. They didn't know wipe your face. You got, snot and stuff, just use your sleeve. They didn't know about social distancing. People lived in crowded conditions. So we were looking at sanitary conditions were not optimum, right? There was overcrowding, right? It was not the best environment to control something like a pandemic. So what happened was people died at alarming rates. And because they died, and they died very quickly, they had no way of disposing of the bodies. So these dying, rotting corpses were left piled high in the street, and people were going about business as usual, because they did not know that even in death, these dead corpses that were rotting were still able to give out this particular bacteria to kill people, thus called the plague. When they finally realized that it was the rats, they were like, it's the rats. So they decided to kill all the possible rodents that they could. But at the expense, it took a minute to get this under control. Thus, the Black Death, because it occurred quick, fast, and in a hurry. So if you came in contact, most likely you were going to die. And they died very quickly. How many people heard about the Spanish flu? Another pandemic. It happened, but guess what? It happened.
That was just 100 years ago.
Absolutely, not that long ago. So, it was an outbreak of flu, and they were like, wait a minute, right? Lost lives. We learned a lot about that flu. that the flu virus changes every year. Flu vaccines are only good for a year. Every September, August, a new vaccine comes out with the previous strain from the last year. So they pray that another strain doesn't emerge during the year that we're vaccinating, because it probably will not prevent the new strain, but it would provide some protection. So it's better to have something on board than have nothing on board, and this flu virus decides to mutate. Can we die from flu? Absolutely. Is it as horrible as COVID? Probably, I don't know. We're still trying to twink that out, okay? But the thing is that these diseases you don't want. Flu. Some people are still hesitant about flu vaccine. Nah, every time I get the flu vaccine, I get sick. So we're hearing the same dialogue with COVID. Oh, if I get the COVID vaccine, I'm gonna have COVID. Okay. And I try to dispel the myth. No, vaccines do not give you the disease. What it does is it is called passive immunity. What it means is that it gives you a very weakened, so that your immune system will recognize and say, oh, this is foreign. This is a homeless person trying to reside in my house, so let me protect it. So it sends in a host of army of individuals, which are your white blood cells and other various types of very complex immunological responses. And it says, you know what? We got to keep this virus from replicating and making this body its home. So that's how vaccines work. Active immunity is when you actually have the disease itself. On the line here, I don't know how many have had COVID, but I want to say, if you've had COVID and you're survived, it's a blessing. Because many have not. But what we do know, that since last year, we have 2 variants out there now. The first one was what? What was the first variant? What was the first?
Delta variant.
That was the Delta variant. Where did the Delta variant come from? Where was it first?
Europe. It was first found in Europe, right?
India.
Okay.
India. Okay. Now the second variant is the Omicron. Where did we first notice that one? That's the latest one. That's the hottest one. So that's the one. Africa, South Africa.
Was it South Africa or was it China?
South Africa. The original COVID vaccine came from China, okay? And the first COVID virus that came in on the ship, right? Back in 2019, and it was tried to keep hush hush, right? When there was warnings, right? In a political climate with previous President Trump, that was warned that, you know what, I don't know about letting these people off the ship because they're really, really sick. Oh, no, come on in. And kept under, hush hush, because people were getting sick, but we had no idea what they were getting sick from. And then it finally came out that it was COVID. That original COVID virus was very potent. It was the one that took out the population last year in 2020. That's where we had bodies on top of bodies. They were throwing them in freezers. They couldn't even bury them. They couldn't burn them. There was no funerals. There was no homegoing services. There was social distance. It was a complete shutdown because they had no idea the nature or the movement of this virus. Now, a year later plus, and we're going into our second year, if we've not already hit it, we know a little bit more, and we're learning a little bit more as we move forward, as more and more people are being tested. People are being vaccinated. Some people are still not being vaccinated. Some people are still getting COVID. The thing is that the big myth is people say, well, the vaccinated people are even getting COVID. But guess what? They have protection on board so that if they do get the new variant, because the new variant ain't going nowhere. What we know about the new variant is that it's much more contagious, meaning that you're more apt to get it if you come into close contact. So it's really the unvaccinated person who is the vector or the carrier who puts the people that are vaccinated at risk. And I wanted to talk a little bit about herd immunity because Pastor Ross had brought that up. When we look at protection or stopping a disease, we look at what we call herd immunity, meaning that the more people that you get vaccinated, you provide a greater protection. However, if the herd immunity is not hitting the numbers that it needs, the people that are unvaccinated become more of a risk to the vaccinated because we're dealing with a virus. Remember, viruses are homeless people. Viruses are smart, but they're not as smart as they think they are. What they try to do is wear a different outfit when they come to your house so that you won't recognize it. And that's where we get mutations and variants. So the original COVID vaccine took out so many people. And then at the end of that, we were just getting the vaccine. So the vaccines that were put out by Moderna and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson were based on that science, right? So now up emerges a new Delta, right? So now they've got to look to see whether or not the current vaccines are protective against Delta. And the science is still ongoing. Sometimes we don't have the answers right away because this is a very lengthy process. So now we find, guess what? If you get 2 shots, right? 2 is better than 1. Okay, so they're saying, great. Now with the third variant, Omicron, now they're saying, a couple of weeks ago, they put out a mandate. Everybody should get a booster. Before it was just certain populations. If you have chronic illness, if you're immunocompromised, you have cancer, things that will put you at risk for getting sick, right? And not having the ability to fight it. Now they're saying, guess what? It came out 2 weeks ago. We got something from the CDC. Guess what? Everybody need to get a booster. So now what we're dealing with is people who have gotten vaccinated, right? They got 2 doses and they're saying, I don't want the third one. And I'm asking them, why? Oh, because, I don't like the way it made me feel. Guess what? COVID will make you feel worse than that sore arm or that fever for a couple of days. So we got to weigh things, right? And people are afraid of feeling a little discomfort for a couple of days versus possibly feeling horrible and winding up in the hospital. So we have a wonderful new medication. We have monoclonal antibodies for those that are really at risk, for the older people who would definitely not be able to fight and wind up in hospital with serious infection complications, respiratory, ventilator, right? My patient the other day was diagnosed positive for COVID. He got monoclonal antibodies. He is doing fine. He said he feels good. And that's 3 days in. He feels good. Where last year in 2020, at his age, with his chronic illness, he would have been hospitalized, possibly on a ventilator. So we have to look back and reflect where we were 2020 to where we are now. And we have to embrace the information that we have. Embrace it. Don't fight it. My role is not to tell anybody to get vaccinated. I give you the science, right? It's an individual decision. I'm not here to convince anybody to get it. I'm not the vaccine police investigator. I'm not here for that. I'm here to say, think about it. Reflect on your own. If you were to get COVID, and there's a possibility that if you are vaccinated, you just might get it again. But I guarantee, based on if you have an intact immune system, your body's going to recognize, I've seen this before. It's just wearing a different outfit. It's wearing a black dress instead of the blue dress the last time. Okay, so guess what? Let me send the army out. What you don't want to do is deplete the army, the soldiers in your immune system. So you keep yourself in optimum health. You eat right. You get the proper rest. Take your medication. If you're high blood pressure, keep it controlled. If you're a diabetic, stay controlled. If you have asthma, stay controlled on your pump. Minimize your exposure to people that are unvaccinated. There's no harm in telling people that are not vaccinated, don't come to my house. Guess what? No, no, no. I'm vaccinated. Everybody in this house is vaccinated. You're not. I'm not trying to be funny. Let's do a FaceTime or Zoom. There's nothing wrong with that because we're now at the point where you've got to protect yourself. This is completely social. Okay. Oh, God sent it. Maybe at the beginning we thought God was trying to send us a message. Guess what? I still believe he's trying to send us a message. I think he's still trying to send us a message. He's trying to tell us, get yourselves in order. We knew what was going to happen once the holidays came around. They predicted it, that after the Thanksgiving holiday, that there would be a surge, but they didn't know what the surge was going to look like. You know why? Because there were people who were traveling to places where and visiting individuals who was like, no, we ain't vaccinated in this house, but we're all going to get together and, right? Not realizing that it just wasn't about testing before you get on the plane. It was about who was you going to spend time with. You know, are you know, is it possible, you know, yeah, I'm gonna wear my mask. I know I look pretty strange wearing a mask, but I'm okay. When I go and visit my sister and I go in her home, I wear a mask. She doesn't have to wear a mask, but I wear a mask. And you know why? Because I'm the one in and out. She's home. She's not going out. Her family's and you know, I don't want to come in there with my exposed self to all the patients that I'm seeing and I'm out in the street here and there and everywhere and coming into her home. I wear a mask. I wash my hands. I stay very shortly. I'm not all over their house. I stand at the door. I visit at the door. I might go as far as the kitchen, but I wash my hands. I exercise all the precautions. In my office, when patients come in, they don't have a mask. I'm sorry, they're given a mask and or they're asked, well, let's do this and you can't be here hours and hours sitting around in the waiting room. We spray down, we clean, because my staff has little children at home who are underage, who are not at the age to be vaccinated. So it goes beyond just me, myself, my family, my household. It goes the office, the work environment, the people that I come in contact with. I'm thinking further than them. I'm thinking about their people in their home as well. God is trying to tell us, let's stop being selfish. It's not just about you, boo. Yes, we miss the hugging and embracing. I do. I miss being able, you know, to hug the people. I hug, but you know what? We're hugging with masks because we need that contact. But we also need to know that if we know that we're sick, that we have to say, you know what? Let me stay home. A lot of people are not staying home because they want to stay home. Some people are staying home because guess what? They don't want to share with people that they have COVID. It's almost become like a cancer. We don't want to let people know that we have cancer or we're sick or we have diabetes or we have high blood pressure or we're on medication for this or medication for that. It's a stigma. It reminds me of the time when we were dealing with HIV. Nobody disclosed their HIV status. Now nobody wants to disclose their COVID status. Nobody wants to share that they've had COVID. Heard some testimonies on Sunday, you know, that they gave God the glory because they had COVID and they were still here and they were sick. And they didn't wind up in hospital. Then I had people that said they were exposed when the whole household was full of COVID, but they didn't contract COVID. There's hearsay out there about people. Oh, what's my blood type? Because there's out there that if you have a certain blood type, you're not going to get COVID. I don't know. What about your immune system? I don't think it's just your blood type. I think it's your immune system. And the complexity of the immune system is that everybody's immune system is their immune system. My immune system is not like Sister Cynthia Hendricks' immune system, and hers is not like mine. It's like fingerprints. There's none that's two alike. There's a lot of things that we're still trying to figure about the immune system. How does it work? How does it function? Why is it that some people get COVID, they get sick, ventilator, near death, then all of a sudden they come back, and others go that same route and they don't come back? There's a lot of moving parts to this. It's underlying. There's many pieces of the puzzle. Why does this one survive and that one doesn't? 2021, we lost a lot of people. 2020, we lost a lot of people. And we felt the devastation and the effect of the loss. Our lives will never be the same again. I'm not the same again. Mentally, physically, I'm not the same. Every day is a day of Thanksgiving. I know about today. Yesterday is gone. I don't know about tomorrow. We're to embrace every moment. I believe God is trying to tell us, embrace your time. It's precious. Whether God puts your expiration date on your life today, tomorrow, next week, whether it's COVID or non-COVID. Now, when people hear of people's deaths, the first thing they ask is, did they have the COVID? No, I've heard all different ways it's been called. It's been called the covert, the COVID. People are, maybe it's humorous. I've been heard it called everything. The covert, the COVID, the covert, everything. But guess what? Now we're at the point that when we hear of people's demise, the first thing we say is, oh, did they die from COVID? And we forgot that people are still going on to eternity because they didn't take care of their diabetes. They didn't take care of their blood pressure, and they had a stroke. They had a cancer. And God said, you know what? Enough suffering. Come on, go on home. What I'm trying to say is that we don't want to make it bigger than what it is. I'm not saying not to be concerned. Yes, we should be concerned, but it should not consume us. We're exhausted. Every day you get up, you turn on the news, you have to hear the statistics. You have to hear how many hospitalizations. You have to hear schools closing. This class is quarantined. That school is closed down. The lines for COVID testing are through the roof. I was walking today and I couldn't believe the number of people that were standing on lines to get COVID tested. And I'm asking, are they getting COVID tested so that they can travel for Christmas? Are they getting tested? Because what's the reason? See, it's mixed. And now we just got new information out again. So what they're basically saying is they have new quarantine requirements. So if you're vaccinated and you come in contact with someone, you don't necessarily have to quarantine. Quarantine is different from isolation. You don't have to quarantine, meaning that you have to stay in your house. What you have to do is you have to stay away and watch your symptoms and test within 5 days if you are symptomatic. But if you know that you have come in contact with somebody who is COVID positive and you're not vaccinated, you have to quarantine. You have to test, regardless of whether you have symptoms or not. And if you have COVID, you definitely need to quarantine and you need to stay isolated from the people in your home, meaning that if you live in the household with people and you're COVID positive, that means you need to stay in your own room. You need to eat by yourself. You need to have your own bathroom, but I know that's a long shot because most people don't have their own bathroom. But you've got to make sure that you clean after and wipe and do all the precautions so that you minimize the potential of giving it to those other members that reside in your household. So the question is myth versus reality. Okay, yes, the vaccinated can still get COVID. Yes. People ask me, so what's the purpose of getting vaccinated if I can still get COVID? I say, because it's those unvaccinated people who keep coming in your presence. And if you do have vaccine on board, you have some protection. At least that if you do pick up COVID again, there's a stronger possibility that you won't wind up sick, very sick, or in the hospital. Yes, you might have a little body ache, fevers, and all of that stuff, but it will be very mild and you'll come through. I heard that you can get a blood clot from that vaccine. Oh, I'm gonna get a blood clot. Okay, no different from you taking a medication that has a side effect. We don't think about when we take a Tylenol for headache, that we might tear our liver up. We don't think about when we take that medication for pain that we might, help our, our liver enzymes will go up and our kidney function might be affected. But we're still doing what we're supposed to do, right? Risk versus benefits. People say, oh, there's never going to be an end. I believe there's going to be an end. But I think that it's going to take the efforts of everybody to understand. Like I said, I'm not here to tell you to get vaccinated if you're not vaccinated. And I'm not here to shame you if you didn't get vaccinated. If you enjoy getting tested and having that thing up your nose, by all means, go for it. It's not the most pleasant. but if that's what you don't mind doing and you don't mind doing it often, go for it. And I know that sometimes it's hard to share that with people that you've had COVID. But we can take this and turn around and use it as a testimony. Yes, I had COVID. I thought I was going to die. Never experienced anything like that before. Do I want to experience again? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Am I vaccinated? Absolutely. Am I boosted? Absolutely. Am I willing to give up my job? No. I like things. I like shelter, food, clothing. I like having a buggy. I like having chavo, dinero. I need that to survive. So if me getting stuck with a needle and my arm hurting for 3 days, I'm good. So what, I got a little fever and body aches, but I know it's not going to be forever. Yes, I'm going to feel lousy for a few days, but guess what? I'm coming out of this. Yes, I might have a little cough, but guess what? I ain't going to cough forever. So, Pastor Ross, that's my spiel. I'm going to open up the floor, if I may, if people have comments, questions, concerns. Like I said, my role is not to tell you to go get vaccinated. If you don't want to get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated. If you don't think it's real, you keep thinking that. But I'm sure, like I said, there's people that we know they've gone on, people that we have loved, people we love that meant so much to us are gone. They're not with us to celebrate holidays in the new year that's about to come. And we wish that we could turn back the last 6, 8, 9 months and shoot them up ourselves. I would have put the needle in their arm in a second if I knew that they were not going to be here. Memories are great, but I'd rather have them here. I'm selfish. I'd rather have you here. Now, if his Lord is calling these people home, then he called them home. But to know that there was something available, then there's the group of people that they're waiting and seeing. I keep asking, what are you waiting to see? A death in your family? Even your own demise? What you waiting and seeing? Okay, you wait and see. I'm exhausted. I no longer, I do the COVID vaccine counseling and I leave it like that. I don't go any depth into it anymore. I just leave it, say, hey, when people ask me, oh, should I get the booster? I go, yep, the CDC, I give them the science because it's a very emotional thing. It's very hard for me to remain completely 100% objective. And that's because I've lost people and I wish they were here so I can laugh and talk with them and enjoy them. That's my spiel. Thank you for the time and the space. If there's anybody that has any questions, I don't guarantee that I'll have the answers, but I will look for the answers, or I'll even encourage you to look for the answers. Thank you, Pastor Ross. It's back into your hands.
God bless you, and God bless you all for joining us. And I thought I was very well versed in the information, and come to find out there was just yet still another level of information that I needed. And Sister Gwen, you were very succinct and to the point, and it makes sense. So now everybody, now that you've been armed with the proper information, you now are in a place where you can make a better and informed decision. As she said, I'm not trying to force anybody to get a vaccine, but since I am fully vaccinated and those around me are fully vaccinated, if you want to see me other than on Zoom, it's probably going to be in your best interest to look at the idea of becoming vaccinated. Tonight's lesson was also transcribed on YouTube. So if anybody needs it, I'm going to send the link to Dr. Gwen, and she could share it with you so that you can pass this information on to others. This is the True Vine Ministries where seekers come. Now, is there anyone on the line that has a question or a comment before we close out tonight's call?
Wow. I have a question. I'm always full of questions. Since she's there to answer, I did come in late. With the vaccine, how soon? Because not the vaccine, the booster. How soon are you supposed to get it? I just got vaccinated.
Dr. Gwen?
Okay, hi. Basically, if you just started your series, you won't be eligible for a booster until next year because the simple facts, the first booster is given and then you have a minimum of 28 days because vaccines are given on a very particular schedule in order to give your body, your immune system time to create antibodies. So the first vaccine, number one dose, right? Then 28 days minimal, right? You're eligible for the second one. Okay. So if you were to look at 20 days, we use 4 weeks. Okay. So, a month later, you'll get your booster. And then after that, it's 6 months, right? So that they will tell you, you're eligible for a booster. And before they boost it, they'll ask you, when did you get your second dose? Because that needs to be spaced out.
Okay.
And it depends on which vaccine you get. There's very specific, instructions or guidelines.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? No. Well, I feel grateful given this opportunity.
Amen. Amen. This was good. And Sister Gwen, I want to thank you for sharing with us on tonight and giving us clarity. And so now, again, we now that we are armed with information, we know what kind of decision to make. All right. I love you all in Jesus' name. And remember, there's nothing that you're going to face that you and God can't handle, because you and God together are unstoppable. I love you in
Pastor,
Jesus' name.
I'm sorry, before you
Yes.
close out, I'm sorry to interrupt. You know what? Did okay, I hope I say this um without offense. It's the people that need to hear this information is never on these types of calls.
You're absolutely right.
And it's the people who want to know are the ones that get on the call. It's the people who don't think that this type of informational session is valuable are the ones that are never. It's like going to a financial planning session where you can learn how to manage your money when you know you can't manage a nickel. They don't come. It's the people that are managing their money, doing the best they can. Those are the ones that take up all the seats. You know why? Because they want to gain more knowledge and information. I think that as a people, we lack in this area. We wait till stuff hit the fan and then we go running. We like for crap to hit the wall, if I may. Excuse me if I offend anybody, but we wait till the crap hits the wall and then we go, oh, I think I better get the Lysol and the bleach rather than being proactive, rather than gathering the information and making a conscious, educated decision. We live in crises. We like crises. We don't like planning. We don't like thinking things out in a very orderly fashion. And then we look at other people, other populations, and we get angry at them because they're better at planning and gathering information than we are. And we want to blame them. Oh, really? You didn't show up to the PTA meeting to determine whether or not your child is getting the education. You wait till they flunk out. And then you want to go up to the school and cuss the superintendent and the principal and the teachers, because your kid ain't learning. Wait a minute. Did you go and check out whether or not your kids were getting what they, okay. All right, let me shut up. Let me shut up.
You said it well. You said it better than I could ever.
It's sometimes that it's frustrating to me that we're the most churched people, but we can be the most ignorant. I'm not dispelling faith. I believe in God, but guess what? There's some information we need to get on the outside as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're not in balance. We're not in balance. We are off kilter. And then we want, fix it, God, fix it. Did you get yourself into that? Oh.
And he already provided you with a way of escape without asking him to fix it.
So
he gave us information. Yeah.
We live in a world of information. We live in the informational age. We could Google the most crazy thing that pop up in our thought. The problem is that we still need people to help us to discern and to filter out that information to see whether or not that information is relevant or appropriate to my situation. When patients come into my office and they tell me, oh, such and such, and I'm like, I'm sure you've been on Google, you've been on WebMD, you've been on Ask Me, you've been on all these sites, right? Guess what? You're swinging that pendulum. And let me help you bring it back in the middle. Every lump on your chest is not cancer. I'm not saying that it's not something that needs to be addressed, but let's put it in proper perspective. And I think that this is irrelevant to the vaccine and getting vaccinated. Every COVID vaccine, blood clot. Oh, I've heard people say, well, my friend got the COVID vaccine and they died after they got the COVID. Maybe they had something else. Maybe they had a stroke. But we give credit to the COVID to further dispel and make it seem like it's not something that's necessary. I didn't say that if you got the vaccine for chickenpox, you wouldn't get chickenpox. The fact is that if you get chickenpox with the vaccine on board, you won't have as many pox marks, and you might come through that course a little bit easier rather than having your face all messed up and your body all full of pox. Or you might not have the complications of having chickenpox with your infection in your brain and in your lungs from that virus. No, I'm not here to say that COVID vaccine is going to keep you from ever having COVID. No, I'm not here to say that. What I'm saying is that if you do, there's a strong possibility you're in. Flu vaccines do not give the flu, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you might not have the flu. You might still get the flu being vaccinated. I'm vaccinated against flu too. But guess what? I know that if I get flu, I'm not going to be 2 weeks in the bed. All right, I'm done. God bless everybody.
God bless.
What a
Pastor,
blessing.
I'm
What a
sorry.
blessing.
Let me hush up.
No, there's nothing to apologize for. Good lesson, good information. Now do with it what you will, my friends and my family, my church family, our visitors. You have been armed with this information. So what do you do next? Praise God. Praise God. All right. There will be no open forum on this week, and we will be having an hour on Zoom on Christmas Day at 10 a.m. from 10 a.m. to 11. And join us for songs and for fellowship and worship and a word from the Lord. I love you all in Jesus' name, and have a good